Hello, and welcome to the Our Sustainable World podcast, a series where we speak to some of the most innovative entrepreneurs tackling some of the world's most challenging sustainability problems. Today, we are here in the Kubik office, and I'm joined by the co founder and CEO, Kidus Asfaw. Kubik are the 2023 winners of the Global Startup Awards, and we're very happy to be able to have the opportunity to speak with Kidus today. Kidus, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming and agreeing to host us in this wonderful office. So, Kidus, for the audience back home, what is Kubik trying to achieve?
Kubik's mission is to build dignity through clean and affordable living for all. This vision came to my co-founder and I as individuals that are African, parents, and people that really wanted to contribute to a better future for our kids. Kubik turns hard to recycle plastic waste into low carbon and low cost building materials, as this is something we have worked on prior to building this company at UNICEF. And it really led the passion and commitment we have as Africans, parents, and planet positive individuals in taking this experience and building it into a startup.
And I'm interested, what was it like for you growing up? I'm just intrigued as how your childhood and growing up and your experience influenced your mindset and your ability to sort of take on a challenge as big as this.
I grew up in Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia and home of this office. I had a very beautiful childhood where the neighborhood took care of me. I was part of a very tightly knit community where if my parents weren't there, you will find me in someone else's house being taken care of. My parents have very unique life experiences as well. My mom is a retired flight attendant. That's the only job she's ever done, but it's taken her all over the world. And that work also built that hunger and thirst for me to know the world and travel and experience new cultures. My father has lived many lives, from being a soldier to being an academic and a professor, all the way to doing public service and later on being a farmer. And that also created this hunger in me to do a lot in my lifetime and never be afraid of pivoting from one career to another or from one life experience to another. One thing that's very common about them is they invested a lot in my education. I am a very privileged person when it comes to the type of education that I've received and the opportunities that has unlocked for me. But they always made sure that I was humble about that and making sure that I contribute back to the community and the society that has made me who I am one day.
Yeah, you mentioned that you had a very sort of privileged education, and you got to spend some time in the US, going to college, and then you got to spend some time working in the US as well. Could you just tell us a little bit about that experience for you of being in the US, and again how that sort of shaped your mindset?
I went to the US for college. I had many firsts in my first week. I had a meal by myself for the first time. I always ate with people, whether it's my friends, my siblings, my family. And here I was sitting in a dining hall for the first time by myself eating. And that was a very strange experience that I never wanted to have again. I, for the first time, had to work. I was working in the mailroom of one of the departments on campus. And that taught me a very valuable lesson that a good life has to be earned. Mm-hmm. And hard work does reap into possibilities of doing other things. And back then, I was a very young kid. So every little bit of money that I had was spent on very frivolous things in the beginning. But again, it taught me responsibility. Now, when it came to the biggest epiphany I had about living in the US is being able to be whoever you wanted to be. I never understood that growing up. The quintessential saying about the African parent to his or her kid is you have to be a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, or nothing. Right? It really instilled in those type of mentality.
Yeah.
But here I am in a place where anything is possible. I've seen art majors become some of the most profound software developers. I've seen some of the laziest kids become very successful entrepreneurs. What that taught me is that if society is set up in a way where people are given the opportunity and choice to grow in their own way, it can happen. And America is a really great example of that. But knowing what I wanted to do in the future, knowing what my parents have told me that I need to do to pay forward, the way I saw this was how do I leverage all of these opportunities, use them to make me a better person, better professional, but ultimately bring that back as a contribution to the place that I call home, which is here in Ethiopia.
Yes, I'm intrigued. You mentioned you were in the US. It's a land of opportunity. You can be anyone. You can almost do anything. But you decided to come back to Ethiopia and sort of say thanks, but no thanks to all those opportunities in the US, and you decided to come back here. Why did you do that? What motivated you to come back?
I had some of the most incredible experience in the US. I worked at Google when so many people wanted to work at Google. I worked in management consulting, which was seen as this fast paced, really cool life. But there was a point where I realized a lot of the intellectual curiosity I had for software or for frontier tech doesn't necessarily have to just be applied in the US. And taking that mentality that I did learn in the US, which is you can be anything, you can do anything, you can be anywhere to do it, made me to realize I don't have to do it here. And home is where I wanted to be, and I needed to find that way back. I think I found that pivot by going back to graduate school, learned public policy, really took a lot of interest into the mundane, kind of the banality of having to make decisions for society. But it was a very important thing to learn because it also grows a depth of empathy towards very difficult decision making processes that public servants have to go through day in and day out. So, taking my passion for tech, taking my curiosity and understanding of public policy landed me in two wonderful organizations, the first being the World Bank, and later on at UNICEF, where I spent over 7 years in 40 countries working for children.
Amazing. And I always think, everyone's always focuses on like the entrepreneurs like Elon Musk who are trying to take humanity to Mars and really progress in the front line. But I think it's so important to have entrepreneurs focus on helping those that are sometimes left behind by the West or society and help them sort of catch back up, I suppose. So yeah, very important, I believe. Um, so you decided you wanted to come back and you wanted to do something back home here in Ethiopia. Why did you decide to focus on this particular problem?
Like I mentioned, most of my time in my career has been spent on software, working on very frontier types of technology opportunities, but also very complex problems. In UNICEF, I worked on everything from leveraging AI to map disease outbreaks, engaging millions of young people through mobile services, also reducing the time it takes for vaccines to be delivered in remote areas by using drones. So that was my life. About 5 years ago, I landed from a trip and saw a news about a landfill in the city that I grew up in having had this massive landslide and killing people because of the avalanche effect of landfill. It raised a lot of questions for me of why my city was going through that. Are others going through that as well? The disparities that exist in societies of fast growing cities like Addis Ababa. And that stuck. Didn't do much with it then. But a few months later, I had an opportunity of working with a close mentor of mine in Cote d'Ivoire, where we were converting plastic waste into bricks to make affordable schools. We made over 500 of them by 2020. That was a pretty cool project. It also opened my eyes to trash. I tell everyone that's the moment my life became about trash. But trash also opened up this whole world of a commodity that is underutilized and can be actually used to build a clean, sustainable, and equitable city like here in Ethiopia.
Yeah. And yeah, that trash as a commodity concept, I think, is pretty cool. Something that we are trialing out in Ghana through startup lounges, how we can basically flip the current model on its head, and how can we ship trash back to Europe who now need trash to be recycled. And they're, particularly in Germany, they're running out of trash to recycle to use. So it's quite interesting how that's kind of played out and everything's kind of flipped to that. But yeah, trash as a commodity is a very interesting topic. Um, so you decided to focus on, the affordable housing and using trash to build, affordable building materials, which can then translate into affordable housing. What is it like starting a business in Ethiopia?
Starting a business in general is a daunting experience, especially those first few months where all confidence goes out of the window and you go into massive self doubt of whether you're doing the right thing. In my case, and in the case of those who've endured and survived that, it's usually been because of a community of people that give you the advice and sharing their experience through the journey that you're walking through and telling you that this is typical and this is normal and here's how you tackle it. And I was very fortunate to have those people around me, letting me know that self doubt is actually a great signal that I'm thinking about things right. If the problem is hard, it is worth doing it because otherwise others would have done it already. These are the snapshots of advice that I've received over time that let me know that starting a company is hard, but if you persevere, you can overcome many of these challenges and become someone that has built a successful company.
And when trying to turn plastic waste into affordable housing and starting Kubik, where do you even begin with setting that? There's lots of different elements that have to come together to get to that point. Where do you even start?
You always start with the problem. In consulting, you were told follow the money. In my case, I follow the trash, right? It's really important that you understand what problem that you're tackling and whether what you're doing is something that the market will accept, adopt to tackling that problem. But it's always about the problem. It's never about the solution. I learned that in very humbling ways working at UNICEF, where I get super excited about this new breakthrough technology, let's say blockchain as an example. For me, I've conceived and understood why this thing is really incredible. But the moment that I'm trying to preach it to the organization, I would get blank stares. And what I realized is it's not that people are resistant to change, it's they need to understand what they are changing their lives for. And the moment that you start exposing issues or pain points that people go through in the workplace or in life, they quickly adopt that idea that you have the right intentions and approach to solving the problem. And the consequence of that becomes the product or service that you provide. That's what we've done here at Kubik. As you can probably tell from how our team talks about it, we start from the problem. There's too much trash. There's way too little affordable housing for the majority. And cities, especially real estate, are a prime contributor to climate change. These are the three areas that we focus on. And it's not the brick or the wall that we make that we become proud of. It's about the advancement we make to tackling and solving that problem. And that's going to happen in many different ways over time in the growth journey of this company.
Yeah, and how has the journey been as an entrepreneur for you? I spoke about the beginning, starting it up, but considering where you are today, how has that journey been? And then based off that experience and some of your idols and people that support you, what do you think makes a successful entrepreneur?
A successful entrepreneur puts their ego aside and listen. They surround themselves with people that are much smarter than them in whatever subject area, and they leverage that experience and smarts to make decisions. And usually the decisions that they have to make are extremely unpopular, especially unpopular to themselves. Working against the grain to what your perception of success is a very difficult thing for a human being, especially for a founder. And the type of people I've admired, whether they're public figures or those that have been around me, is that they've always told me I have to listen, right? And I'm really proud to say the team that we have here, the team that we continue wanting to build in Kubik, are going to be a bunch of smart people that listen and make very unpopular decisions. But that has to start with me and how I approach it. And over time, we can create a culture of a company that's listened and identified problems because that's what the market has told them, and make very unpopular decisions of how they would shift, whether it's the business direction, product direction, because we've understood that's what it takes for the company to grow.
And I've been following your sort of journey ever since we sort of got introduced to you, and I think I've seen the fundraising back in June, the press around that, and I've been following your story, and just everything looks so well managed, and if it's all going to plan. But I know that's probably not the case. I'm intrigued. What's been maybe the lowest point in the Kubik journey, or maybe the hardest obstacle or barrier that you've had to overcome?
It's a roller coaster ride in Kubik, but it is a roller coaster ride in any other startup that you go into. I mean, a lot has happened. We have had a multi-million dollar fundraising opportunity fall through overnight. We've had opportunities where we thought we had the sale in the bag vanish. I've had my co-founder leave. There's other team members that have had to leave. There's been conflict, right? These are very typical. I think what has made the ingredient of this team dynamic very different is very few of us have joined Kubik because we're trying to just have a better pay or just look for professional advancement. We really want to solve a problem that personally relates to us and we feel we can contribute to it. And the moment that these major hurdles come, you end up taking a step back and one, asking yourself, is this worth it? is this problem worth it? Or, is this tension worth it? As the starting point, you also start to think about how do we put things aside and find a solution that can still advance this company to solving that problem. There's a lot of humility here, a lot of humility amongst each other and respecting differences of opinions. We have principles. We have 10 principles that really focus on the collaboration, respect, humility, and ambition that we should be driving as individuals and as a company. And we find that to be the foundation for how, as people that make this company, we overcome major challenges that we've already been through so far, but will certainly continue to go through in the journey ahead.
Yeah, I can definitely resonate with some of the things you've said through our experience at Startup Lounge, people coming and joining us and then leaving within the first week because they didn't like the commute or whatever, and then you're like starting from scratch with your hiring again. It's yeah, it can be a lot of challenging situations that you find yourself in. But I want to take a sort of step change. We've talked about the lows. I want to focus on some of the highs that you've experienced. Now you are the winner of the 2023 Global Startup Awards, competing against companies from all over the world, as the title may suggest. What was that like? How did it feel to get that award?
It was overwhelming. I think deep down inside that we wouldn't win. Not because we didn't think we were good enough, but because we know there's so many incredible companies out there that we're not ready for that recognition. But it also felt very validating that we were recognized not because of we are a company that has shown the best sales or that has shown the best traction, but because we're a company that is tackling a problem that relates to everyone in the world. Like we're on to something is what we took away from it. For the team, we only we know how hard we've been working. Only we know how many late nights or sleepless nights we've had to accomplish certain goals that we've set ourselves to do. And when you get recognized by the world, you also start thinking internally about how that hard work is worth it. And there are people out there that will recognize and support you through it.
So, Kidus, you won the Global Startup Awards, and then shortly after, a few months later, you closed a funding round over 3 million USD. Again, what did that feel like to close that round and now finally have the money that you need to go on and solve this problem?
I always felt and was always told to feel that fundraising is not a milestone. It's a tool to achieving the real milestone of the company, which is, in our case, having the capital we need to manufacture low carbon, low cost building materials from plastic waste. So when we closed our round, the part that I enjoyed the most was knowing who invested in us. You have the likes of Satgana, who are a climate tech VC, very helpful. Having Ethiopian VCs such as Kazana Group or the African Renaissance Partners really meant a lot. Having Bestseller Foundation, a family office that focuses on circular economy, meant a lot. So we were able to create a community of investors that really believed in the mission of Kubik, but had their own unique ways of contributing beyond capital to us.
And you mentioned that the investors they believed in the problem and the solution, but why do you think they specifically invested in Kubik?
I think it's the people. Most of them, as part of their due diligence process, talk to people beyond me. And when they saw both the depth of experience each individual had, but an equal and consistent amount of conviction to what I've been telling them about our mission, they felt that we were onto something. And it's always been about the people for our investors and our ability of executing on a mission that they believe in as well.
So you've got the money now, and you're ready to go. So what's next for Kubik?
Kubik is going to be proving out here in Ethiopia how we can clean a city and a country from a very bad thing called plastic waste and actually use it to also make it the building block of a sustainable, very equitable landscape for low income communities. I think it's really important that we as Africans define what the future looks like. And Kubik is providing that opportunity here in Ethiopia of driving circularity through the built environment and showing that you don't need very expensive, very polluting material like cement to make everything work.
And we had the opportunity to go and see the factory a couple of days ago and get some footage. And we're at the right place at the right time, because on that day, all the kit and the machinery was being delivered to the factory, and we got to see it all being offloaded and start to see the beginning of what looks like it's going to be quite a large production chain. Can you just tell us about how that felt, being there on seeing everything come in as the founder, and also what that factory is going to enable you to do?
It was the happiest day of my life. No, I think it drove a lot of emotions for me because one, I was seeing my team doing things that I could never imagine myself doing and taking on the ownership to do it right. It was all happening in front of me. Seeing, Asafar, our plant manager, running that factory and the people around it, or seeing Haymanot, our head of supply chain, working with customs to make sure everything is cleared properly. Seeing our country director, Robel, orchestrating everything that needs to happen after the unloading. I mean, this is hard work. And knowing that I have people that can do this work much better than I could ever do it myself is an incredible feeling. Also, for our business, at the end of the day, you need a factory to do any of this stuff. So it was a very tangible milestone that we had hit, being able to know that now we have the capacity to show the world of what it means to build dignity through clean and affordable living for all.
Yeah, it was. You could definitely feel the buzz around the place on the day. It was great for myself and Talia to be part of that special day for Kubik. I'm just going to ask you one more question. So you're about to start on this journey of mass producing affordable building materials from trash to build affordable housing. But in 10 years' time, 10 years from now, what impact do you hope that Kubik will have had on the world?
We want to see building materials manufacturers. This includes those that are currently making cement and various concrete products, understand that our technology can also be used by them to cater to their markets. Kubik does not have an ambition of having factories all over the world. What it does have an ambition on is transforming this industry that has been a massive contributor to climate change and having them change the way that they think about new technologies that are both good for the planet but profitable for their business as well.
Amazing. Well, Kidus, that's all my questions for today. All that's left to do is thank you so much for your time today. It's been an incredible conversation, incredibly inspiring. to hear your responses. And yeah, we will be following your journey for sure in the future.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you for watching the Our Sustainable World podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.